Alright, let's just make being late a theme for the week. This is the Daily Spread. I'm Chris Ross coming at you, about 20 minutes behind schedule here, so not doing too great. There's a lot to talk about today, so, what is there? Let's look. Bill Snyder is returning to K-State sidelines. I think everybody's excited about that. That's great news for him. Then Mason Rudolph, is he, what else we got? Mason Rudolph, is he in Baker Mayfield's shadow? Jake Trotter seems to think so. Lee Corso is convinced the Big 12 is doomed. Texas Tech, their center, Shackelford, underwent surgery. We'll talk about that a little bit. Tom Herman kind of talks about his use of the spread. We look at some players, maybe the best players no one's ever heard of yet. And kind of some unfortunate former Oklahoma football player news, and then we'll end with Bill Snyder returning to the sidelines. So a lot to talk about today. It is Wednesday, April 5th. This is the Daily Spread. I'm Chris Ross, and of course this is all done by landgrantgauntlet.com. You can follow us on Twitter at @the_LGG. And as always, I'm going to take a second here while you guys formulate your thoughts on what you want to talk about. Tell us if you're watching. Give us a comment. What's Bill Snyder like? What's he mean to college football? Is he? I think he's one of the greatest coaches to ever live. I think that's not even a question for most people. So, we'll definitely talk about that. Let me tweet this out. Maybe one of these days I'll come in better prepared. Boom. All right, guys. Hump day. We can get through this. We can do this. Little fluster running behind. Okay, so the first topic up to talk about, Jake Trotter released an interesting article yesterday talking about, I'll just read the headline, Mason Rudolph has plan to exit Baker Mayfield's shadow. Is he aware that he's in Baker Mayfield's shadow? I mean, come on. I understand the premise for the article, and actually I think it's talking about Bedlam and what that means to Mason Rudolph and that kind of thing, and I like it, and having two elite quarterbacks both in the state of Oklahoma. But make no mistake, Mason Rudolph doesn't care what Baker Mayfield is doing. They're not on the same team, they're not on the same program, they're not on the same system. Everything's different. Now, if they're both on the same team, I think you can make that argument. But it's absolutely ridiculous to say Mason Rudolph is in Baker Mayfield's shadow. And that's no slight to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield is a phenomenal quarterback, and I think last year he showed to be the best quarterback in the conference. But I don't know how or why that affects Mason Rudolph and what Mason Rudolph is doing at Oklahoma State, or how that affects any quarterback anywhere. It's a ridiculous comparison. But I mean, you guys can read the article. I don't like the headline, but Rudolph does kind of show some of his mindset. He says, "I'm a great quarterback, and I think I can do a lot of things that he can't do." And he scrambles around and shows the athleticism that I can't always do. We're two different players on two different teams. Yeah, there you go. They're two different players on two different teams. Nobody is in anybody's shadow. That's ridiculous. I mean, if you're looking for clicks that bad, I read that yesterday and my mind just kind of exploded. That's an interesting angle to try to work, but whatever gets the attention, I guess. Moving on to another ESPN guy, Lee Corso is apparently convinced the Big 12 is doomed. No matter, I understand it's a popular mindset out there in the fans, but come on, the media has to be more realistic. The Big 12 is competitive currently with the Big Ten and the SEC in revenue. Now, I understand that in the future that the gap kind of widens there, but by all accounts, the Big 12 will be the third highest paid conference in the land. So I don't understand of all of college football why the third highest paid conference would suddenly just implode. It makes no sense. It's a tired storyline, and people need to move on because, obviously that's not happening. But Corso says the question is asked in this interview by Culture Map Houston, and we'll have it linked to after the show. You can check that out. But they asked the question, is conference realignment in college football done? And Corso says, no, there's still some changes to come. I think the one place that's got to be careful is the Big 12 Conference. If the Big 12 doesn't do something, I wouldn't be surprised if Texas and Oklahoma leave 4 to 5 years from now and go someplace else like Texas and A&M did. Texas and Oklahoma aren't going anywhere. Nobody wants them because it's too much competition. I think we saw that when the Pac-12 deal fell apart. Super conferences aren't happening. There always has to be a major Middle America conference, and whether it's called the Big 12 or whatever, Oklahoma and Texas are always going to be a part of that conference in some manner. I don't think that ever changes. Not to mention when the conference realignment was a big talk last year and the last couple of years, ESPN and Fox made it clear that in behind-the-scenes channels, if you're familiar with the situation, Fox and ESPN very, very much want the Big 12 alive and well. They don't want super conferences. That's taking away from their inventory. It's fewer games overall because teams would have to be cut. There's not enough spots to fill. There's more teams than there are spots for 4 16-team conferences, and so obviously that lowers the television inventory that people would ultimately care about, and it's just ridiculous. Fox and ESPN definitely want the Big 12 around. The Big 12 is going to be around. There's TV deals being worked on as we speak, so I don't know why someone that connected as Lee Corso would be so ignorant, but whatever, I guess, right? Okay, so moving on from that, those are just a couple stories, and I like to highlight different things, and that I just thought they were interesting takes and just tired storylines, and we really need to move on as college football fans and kind of address bigger issues. The biggest issue should be in all of this Big 12 talk or the Pac-12 network failure talk. All this talk, all it does is take away from the fact that you fixed everything with an 18 playoff. I wasn't a fan of the 14 playoff. I liked the BCS. I thought the BCS worked well. I thought it brought a lot of, chaos to everything. It made everything count, and I think that was unique to college football, and I hated to see that go. But if it's going to go, I don't think we can go backwards at this point, so we have to go forward, and I think the 18 playoff is the answer. Let us know your thoughts. Would you guys like to see an 18 playoff? Or do you think the Big 12 is ultimately doomed and they cannot compete? I could be wrong, I suppose, but let us know your thoughts. Speaking of the Big 12 and everything, of course, that's what I'm speaking of. I kind of lost my transition there, if you couldn't tell, so I'll just kind of pretend like I can edit this out after the fact, but I can't. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about Texas. Center Zach Shackelford underwent surgery on his ankle. We previously reported that he was out for the rest of the spring with his ankle. He hurt his ankle last year. I'm guessing it's the same ankle. That's kind of a nagging injury. He underwent surgery, and it looks like hopefully he will be healed up in time for the fall. But just kind of some Longhorn news there. And then also on Burnt Orange, and that's on Burnt Orange Nation, and also they also talk about another article over there, is they talk about Tom Herman's use of the spread, which is pretty interesting. He Coach, in the article, Tom Herman, I think it's always good to practice at that tempo, because when you want to use that tempo in a game, it's not foreign and it's not something that's like a fire drill out there. It's actually practiced over and over again, Herman said. But we're not ever going to be one of those teams that wants to run 110 plays a game. We're going to be an up-tempo team that varies the tempo to keep the defense off balance. So I think that's interesting. They're definitely not going to be running it all the time, and we'll see it come and go. But kind of interesting how he's going to use that. It's definitely not going to be, kind of the Sooners' offense there, where it's snap after snap after snap. They'll use it when it's effective, I guess. Moving on. Pretty cool article from Bleacher Report. The best college football players you've never heard of, and one Big 12 player was named, and that's Oklahoma running back Abdul Adams. Adams, of course, will be taking over the job after P. Ryan and Joe Mixon left, so theoretically he should have a pretty good season this year, as he will get the majority of the workload. But they talk about him and talk about his speed and stuff like that. He's ranked 6th, I believe, out of the 10, or 10 or so. They don't actually number them, but he's players. It's definitely a great read. You can definitely check out other players like Cortland Sutton on SMU, who will be a factor for TCU and Baylor as they play SMU this season. And that's kind of cool to kind of find some players, maybe some players that we'll definitely hear a lot more from later on this fall. And then moving on, after that, we have a little bit of, continuing with Oklahoma, a little bit of an embarrassing kind of headline here. Former Oklahoma player and cheerleader were arrested in a prostitution sting. And he's not a big-time player or anything. Lawrence Moore, he played at quarterback, and I think he played all of a couple games. And he was only on the team one season before he quit football. But it looks like he was working with former cheerleader Micah Parker, and they, I guess he was her pimp, and detectives found her Backpage.com profile, set up a meeting. They busted her in a hotel room. They found all kinds of, they found some pot, they found some other stuff, but they found a bunch of cell phones in a toilet that looked like maybe she was trying to get rid of or destroy that. She thought maybe that would destroy the phone, destroy the data on it, but detectives found several social media posts and text and calls that kind of implemented Lawrence Moore there as her pimp. Definitely a strange article. You got to think in 2013, so 4 years ago, or not 3.5 years ago, these kids were at the University of Oklahoma getting their college degree, playing football, cheerleading, and now they are arrested on serious prostitution charges. That is unbelievable. I just don't understand how you end up there. What happened? Very, very odd. The last piece of news for today that we'll kind of end on is a good note. Bill Snyder has returned to the K-State sidelines, which is freaking awesome, because I think we all love Coach Snyder and what he's done for the K-State program and what he's done for college football, period. His leadership transcends the sport. He's a perfect example of what you can do the right way. Nobody gets more out of his players. His players believe in him. But he says that he is done with treatment. He has completed all his treatments to treat the throat cancer, and that he's back on the sidelines and he is focused on 2017. He refused to answer what his future looks like after this season, if he will indeed retire, or if he's looking to continue on. But it could be a really, really special year for the Wildcats. And I think that it's just fantastic to see him back on the sidelines and doing well. He said that he's kind of been inundated with with letters of support and encouragement, well wishes for him. And I think that's really, really cool. I think we've seen a guy for the last 25 years pour his heart out for the sport, for his players, for other players. You know, like he genuinely wants what's best for everybody involved. And I think that when he kind of is down or when he's facing a serious issue, to see that that outpouring of support and love and encouragement back to him is just an incredible thing. It's really, really cool. Very, 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 very cool. And we'll just kind of end the show on that note. Let us know your thoughts on everything. If you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, hit the subscribe button. If you like the show, hit the like button. If you didn't like it, you know what to do. And apparently my wife just was asking why I say that. Why do I say if you don't like the show, don't, you know, hit the down vote? Why on earth would I talk about that? And honestly, it's because I don't know. We don't have anything to lose. We do this show for fun. If you don't like it, then we want to know, because we need to work on it. If there's something you don't like about it, we need to work on it so we can get better and we can improve the show in a way that's entertaining for people, because that's what we want to do. We're here because we love it, and so if it's not working, we want to know so we can fix that. So that's why I say that. But obviously, if you like the show, hit the thumbs up, hit the hearts, hit the like. We love that. That's a huge help. You can follow us on Twitter, chat with us there. We try to be pretty open and try to respond to everybody that messages us with your questions. We can definitely do that. But it's _LGG. I'm Chris Ross. This has been the Daily Spread on April 5th, Wednesday, and we will be back tomorrow. See you guys.